some of the councillors are still coming back. If we could proceed though, we'll start with the Lyttelton Recreation Ground Reserve Management Committee. Dave Sanders. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, Your Worship and City Councillors, it's a great pleasure to have a few minutes with you this afternoon. As you mentioned, my name is Dave Sanders of the Lyttelton Recreation Ground Reserve Management Committee. It's quite a mouthful. I'm still trying to get used to that whole line. We're in our 5th triennial term. We're a small committee, as you well know, in the Banks Peninsula area. We've got several RMCs. The good thing is our community, actual community members are a part of it and very much involved. Our Pacific RMC is made up of our stakeholders, which includes Lyttelton Rugby, which is our main stakeholder, Lyttelton Soccer and Lyttelton Sea Scouts. And our primary function is managing the council's asset, being the recreation ground and pavilion. For us, it's been challenging in say the recent 3 years. Today obviously we're here for long-term planning. For our RMC it's been a little challenging on 2 fronts. The first one is the marina development. Very exciting, we're enthusiastic, and I'd like to congratulate the council for stepping forward on that hard issue around that corner of Lyttelton. The marina concept is simply fantastic. And furthermore, I'd like to thank the key project team members who have fully engaged us. We have been attending every meeting. The timelines that are being sent to us by email, just the whole professional side of it's been fantastic. Because of the marina development, it does include the recreation ground, which is a 90-year-old ground with a pavilion that was built in 1956. And you probably don't know this, but the pavilion is a war memorial to the Second World War veterans of Lyttelton. Tiny little plaque tucked away that a lot of people don't know that. We're excited because we have a chance, or you guys have a chance, to incorporate us for the future of the ground and the pavilion. This does include, and I'm not sure how brief you are, but it does include a new pavilion. And we feel, after discussions with your project team, there's an opportunity to include club rooms as well, because that's been quite challenging for the Lyttelton Rugby Club. So we've all focused on this building being a changing shed on the ground floor and club rooms, although we wouldn't use the word club rooms, it'd be a community room. So it would never be specific to Lyttelton Rugby. It would be for the wider community, and to have more meeting rooms in our village cannot be a bad thing. The only slight observation, and it'll sound negative but it doesn't mean to be, is that my last one-on-one with the project team, because they are trying to think outside the square, I believe under the legislation you are committed under law to provide X number of car parks, and the design plan is very much focused around that. There was a suggestion of building a new road alongside one of our boundaries, but it would require moving the scout team. That scared me. This is a significant facility for Lyttelton Sea Scouts. It's ahead of its time, comparable to other Sea Scout operations around the country. I just encourage the project team, because I've not heard further, that they do not go down that track. I'm sure they won't. I just need to put it on record that is a concern for us, because for the sake of access and car parking, please don't remove a building. So I just want that on record, that's all. Okay. The other big issue for us, and again, this is not being negative, this is just reality of what we're dealing with, is a couple of years ago a health and safety review was conducted on the ground's location next to the tank farms. You'll recall 3 years ago Lyttelton Port Company submitted a resource application to ECAN to construct a cruise berth adjacent to the fuel tanks. Unfortunately, perhaps not the right word, but the oil companies didn't want a bar of that. And a battle commenced between LPC and the fuel companies. They used a scary tactic and got hold of a report conducted by the UK government on a tank farm that blew up. This was submitted to ECAN, and it's very clear to me from my research it spooked the hell out of them. So much so that the resource, sure there was other issues, but the LPC application was declined, and we all know the outcome now, which is more positive anyway on that front. But we were left with carrying the can because ECAN directed City Council to conduct a health and safety review, given the location of our ground next to the tanks. So 2 years ago this report surfaced. Our pavilion was shut down with no real follow-up plan other than a suggestion that the council would budget cost portacoms, and which would include changing rooms and showers and so forth, and another area of the ground. That was the first time. Eventually we ran out of time because we had to get the rugby season underway for 2016, and subsequently we got there in the end of getting back to normal, but it happened again towards the end of last year. So formally our pavilion was closed again, and I'm a patient man, my committee's patient. We've never got emotional about it. We do understand health and safety, but from a logistics point of view, when you're looking after a community of sports users, all you want is some clarity and some definite guideline to what we're working with. We eventually got approval to open the pavilion 2 weeks to the first game of this season. So I just want to give you some background. Logistically, this has been really hard. So going back to that review, the health and safety review, I'm at a loss. I do have a lot of common sense. I'm from a corporate banking background, so I do respect health and safety. I respect health and safety, but sometimes I think we all of us get in a situation that one consultant from somewhere, who we don't know who it is, has come up with a risk review. I know you won't be able to see this, but this summarises the squiggly lines, and one of the red lines cuts out our pavilion, which is now understood to be a danger zone. This is how silly it is, councillors. If you're 1 foot on the other side of this red line, you're in danger. On the other side, 1 foot of this line, you're in the safety zone. This is what we're dealing with to try and manage a community ground. So today is not about criticising, it is just about some help, because common sense has gone out the door. Everyone is absolutely scared of this health and safety report, and I don't blame them. If I was council staff, I'd be concerned. But no one's stepping back to say, hey, let's have a breather, let's have a look at this logistically and professionally. When our pavilion was built in 1956, it's been a neighbour of the tank farms for all these years. There will always be a risk next to a tank farm. There will always be a risk for the whole Lyttelton community. But just keep shutting us down because people are scared of this report. My key message today is some help, please, because we have some exciting news going forward. Canterbury Rugby Football Union have approved Lyttelton Rugby to go to Division 1, which this is exciting. Not for just Lyttelton Rugby Club, but the wider community. You may recall in the early 80s. We were senior one then. That's when we had the famous players, Billy Bush and Hud Rickett and the Battership's, the good days of Lyttelton rugby. And while it lasted 5 years and didn't sort of end well, it really raised our community. This time round, as a past president of Lyttelton Rugby myself, it's a different ball game. But how do we plan? The rugby union is asking for normal, high-level standard support facilities, including our grounds and pavilion. We don't have any way forward to how we plan around that. When we have this health and safety report to deal with, that can shut us down anytime. We have a pavilion that is ageing, and then we have the exciting marina development out to the right, which that will take some years to probably come to fruition. So we're in limbo, and all I ask, and I'm grateful for this 10 minutes, is just somebody or someone to just step forward to help me, help the committee, to come up with a plan to deal with this health and safety report that keeps shutting us down and help us with the long-term plan. You have a copy of the plan, which I haven't summarised from my conversation today. I felt it was just easier to talk to you about the issues we're dealing with.
Absolutely. But
we do look to re-turf or re-sow the ground itself, and that's what the written report's about. So lastly, thank you very much for this 10 minutes. I really appreciate it, and I hope I do get some support in dealing with this tricky issue that I've just explained. So
thank you. Well, the Deputy Mayor's sort of jumping out of his skin over here with an offer to come and meet with you and the community board, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already done some work with the community board on this, and I mean, that was the background to how you got your changing facility open in time for the season this year. But I agree that we do need some greater level of certainty. I mean, if we go back to the council resolution, there was a section in that resolution which said that the changing facility shouldn't be closed down unless appropriate alternative facilities were provided. And that was the guidance from council at that time. This is actually a conversation about appetite for risk, around that quantitative risk assessment. We need to make some decisions around that, but I'm guessing the other thing that you're saying in the context of the long-term plan is that a high priority of the Naval Point development plan would be creating certainty for the changing facilities for the rugby club.
Absolutely, but of course no one can give me a timeline on that. So we have Lyttelton Rugby going to Div 1 in 2020. I think we all know the naval development would not be ready by then by a long shot. Yep. So that makes it even more challenging.
So I've put my hand up to take over the role that Christine Wilson formerly had as the liaison for your Reserve Management Committee.
Thank you.
And I intend to get fully involved in this space to get a good outcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
Very good. Look, thank you very much for making a presentation. It does make it easier actually for us when you come and tell a story rather than stick to the thing. So it adds value. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.